Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here. I'm excited to share a beginner-friendly card making tutorial with you that brings a little spring to your craft space. If you've ever been curious about using Distress Oxide sprays or felt unsure about mixed media, this is a perfect project for you. Today, we're going to be using a few of the items from This Calls for Confetti. I'm going to show you how to turn some fall leaves into some bright spring embellishments and a unique way to frame your designs with oval dies. Now let's take a look at the supplies I'm using today. We're going to be using some Distress Oxide sprays to create some beautiful spring leaves using the Autumn Artesian die set. Now, I know that this says autumn in the title, but I want to show you how to use this die set year-round. And there's plenty of wonderful leaf shapes on here that you can use for spring. I'm going to be using a simple shape and sentiment on this card from the Hello elongated frame and die set. This has an outer frame, the etched oval, and the word hello. As I create today's project, I'll bring in a few additional supplies. I encourage you to use what you already have in your craft stash, but if you would like a list of the items that I'm using, one has been provided for you in the description below, along with my affiliate link to the This Calls for Confetti shop. Let's get started with the project. We're going to start with the mixed media piece. We want to get this done first so that it has time to dry. I'm going to be using some Distress Oxide sprays. If you take a look at this bottle here, it's nice and mixed. But if you look at this second one here, there's a little bit of a separation and often there's a white chalky residue at the bottom. It's best to swirl the bottles. There's a little metal ball inside that helps blend everything smoothly. Now I'm going to be working on a silicone mat and using a simple dip technique. I'm going to do a few spritzes of twisted citron and cracked pistachio. And I'm going to do a bit of mustard seed for a pop of brightness. Whenever I'm working with green hues, I like to bring in a brighter color. I'm going to mist this with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to place my mixed media paper over the top. We're getting a mix of colors here, but the yellow is more predominant, which is good because that's going to be our base layer and give us a bright undertone behind the greens. It's best to use a mixed media or watercolor cardstock for this. It handles the water and the wet layers beautifully. I'm going to set this aside and dry it real fast. As you can see, that chalky finish really starts to come through. Now I want to bring in a top layer of greens. I'm going to spritz the twisted citron and a little bit of that cracked pistachio onto the silicone mat. I'm going to add a little bit of water, and then once again, we're going to press this down into the color. So as you can see, we still have that yellow undertone, but we have a beautiful spring green over the top. I'm going to go ahead and dry this once again with my heat tool. Now I have to admit that I don't do much mixed media. Not only does it often scare me, but I lack the patience because you have to do this in layers. Each layer of color builds upon each other, and that's what creates this beautiful tone-on-tone look that's going to be perfect for our leaves. All right, so I have some wonderful color tones here, but I feel like I need a little bit of a darker color. Now, don't worry about perfection here. Distress Oxide sprays give a lovely chalky finish, and each layer adds texture and depth. Distress Oxide sprays are just like Distress Oxide inks. They react with water. So I'm going to spritz a little bit over the top, and you'll be able to see the shape of the water droplets appear on top of these inks. This is a wonderful texture for our leaves. I'm going to dry this a third time, and then I'm going to set it aside. This is going to need about an hour to dry fully before I can run it through my die cut machine. So now that this background piece is dry, I'm going to select a couple of leaves from the Autumn Artesian die set. Yes, this is technically a fall set, but leaf shapes are super versatile and they can be used year-round. I'm going to finish cutting out a few more leaves, and then I'll show you all the pieces that you need for the card so that we can start putting it together. For this card making project, I have all of those gorgeous sleeves that I cut out of our mixed media paper. I have a piece of white cardstock that's been cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. Our oval die cut with that wonderful etched design. I love the detail on this die, don't you? I also have the word hello that I've cut from some navy cardstock and 2 white pieces of cardstock. Now, this is a really simple card design. I'm going to be placing the oval here at the top, and the word hello is going to sit right here. Around the edges, I'm going to be placing those leaves. I'm going to go ahead and trim off the top of the oval, and then I'll start adhering those leaves in place. So I've gone ahead and cut that oval. I'm going to flip it over so that I can glue the leaves to the back. Now I only want the leaves to show on the outside, not on the inside of the oval. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of cutting and trimming. This time of year, we have quite a few of our trees starting to bloom, and many of the leaves are starting to pop out in this gorgeous bright green color. Now, it's still a bit chilly here. Last weekend, when I was leaving work, we drove through a blizzard to get down south to visit our daughter. Once we got there, it was beautiful and sunny. That's kind of how spring works here in Colorado. Now I'm going to flip this over real quick so we can take a look at how these leaves are laid out. So far I have a nice balance. I'm going to go ahead and bring in those larger leaves. These are going to be layered behind a few of the smaller ones to create a little bit of dimension. Now, if you wanted to, you could add even more dimension with foam tape. My sentiment is going to be lifted up off the card, so I didn't want to add a whole lot of dimension to the design. Remember, it's okay if you don't fill up every space. It's good to have a little bit of white space because that gives the eye a place to rest. It was a bit difficult doing this backwards, and off camera I did do a lot of flipping just to make sure I had a good balance. I have to say, I do like how these leaves have some great texture and color to them. I also like that the smaller leaf has more of a smooth edge and the other has more of a jagged edge, which gives a nice variation of texture. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down to the card panel with some liquid adhesive. Again, if you want to add more dimension, feel free to use some foam tape. All right, this looks beautiful, doesn't it? I love how bright those green leaves are. What do you think? Do you like the way this looks? It really brings a nice pop of color to the card, doesn't it? I'm going to place a stamping block over the top of this to make sure that everything sticks down. As that dries, I'm going to adhere my letter layers together. When it comes to scripty font, it's often difficult to get foam tape behind each of the letters to give it some dimension. Instead of adding foam tape, I have just cut multiple die cuts, and I'm going to adhere these together with liquid adhesive. All right, I'm going to place this right down on the card. I love the look of navy with bright green. Isn't it gorgeous? Now at this point, you could place this on a card base and send it off to a friend. But I want to add a little spring flair with some clay flowers from This Calls for Confetti. These are going to give this card just the right touch of whimsy without overwhelming the design. As I'm placing this down, I'm realizing that this would also make a great Easter card or a Mother's Day card. You could also turn it into a wedding card by changing out the sentiment into one of the wedding colors. Wouldn't that be beautiful? I'm going to adhere these flowers in place and then I'll share the finished card with you. All right, so here is our finished card. A soft, simple spring design with a few beginner-friendly techniques that really packed a punch. We did some simple mixed media. You learned how to use some fall leaves for your spring projects, and we used that beautiful oval shape in a different way. Of course, the addition of these fun little flowers just makes that card pop, doesn't it? This card design can be easily customized. Just swap out the sentiment and colors. Now that you've learned some basics of using oxide sprays and different ways to use your dyes, I want you to try some of these techniques on your next project. If you do, please tag me so that I can see what you created. I want to thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with your crafty friends. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies I used, feel free to post that in the comments below. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.